watching me play.
Not because I have an endless amount of money at my disposal. Hello, welcome back to my channel if you are a returning subscriber. But if this is your first time, hello, my name is Shalise and I'm the mother of 5 children and I homeschool them all. Today's video is a collaboration with our host Angie from The Science Mama and other well-known and loved homeschool channels. So go ahead and check the description box below and I'm going to have them all linked down, including the playlist where you can get all of the videos that are participating in today's collaboration. So this video is about how to make a budget for your homeschool. And I was really honored when Angie asked if I would participate in this. And I also had a little bit of a hesitancy, like, I don't make budgets. But because I actually don't, and so our budget is usually taken out of our tax return every year. So I use our tax return pretty much to pay for anything that we need. And I know that as my kids get older and their needs are a little bit more expensive, I'm gonna have to plan accordingly to that. You know, this video is about like how to make a budget. Well, it also really depends on your mindset of things. If I went exclusively with what I have, we would kind of be putting a lot of money out there for something that may or may not work for our family. So like Sunlight, I love Simply Charlotte Mason. I just don't know how well a full curriculum would work with our family, and I would want to make sure that I use it, you know, to the T. Sarah McKenzie kind of talks about how our curriculum isn't to rule us, it's meant to be a tool. Well, I would probably be like, no, I spent money on this, I'm going to do it this way, and blah, 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 blah. And I kind of learned that, you know, some of these different curriculums, they have strengths to them, but each curriculum has a different strength to it. And so I like to piece things together. And it can get really expensive if you're piecing it from this and this and this and whatnot. And so trying to make a budget to kind of fit all of that when your kids are growing and then their needs are growing is, I just found to be really difficult. But I have never, ever tried to go more than $500 for a school year. And that was kind of the year that I was biting my nails and, you know, telling my husband, like, this is what I spent and I'm trying to make this work. And he was just like, can't we just do something else? Like, to him, that was a huge amount. And I'm like, some people can spend that per kid. And I was trying to do it for all of us. And so, again, making your budgets just is going to be different depending on, like, how on board your husband is, what your family's needs are, and things like that. So, you know, how do you make a budget? You got to answer those 3 questions. What are your family's needs? What is your husband going to be on board with? And what can you realistically afford? Are you going to be able to use your tax return? Are you going to be able to make this into a budget or a monthly budget kind of rotation and build up? Those are going to be some of the questions you're going to need to ask yourself first. And then you need to go to hslda.org. I think it is. I don't think it's .com. I think it's .org. See what your state standards have to be met. So for some, you have to meet all of these requirements. So you're going to want to make sure that your curriculum, whatever you choose, can meet all of these standards. And, you know, like some curriculums, well, the good and the beautiful can put in like literature and language arts and other things into one curriculum. So you're just buying one and it covers a multiple of things. So those are questions to ask first. And then, okay, realistically after this, how much does something like this cost? And then you kind of research, and then you build up, and you kind of figure things out. And then you can build basically your budget around that. Honestly, for up until about middle grade, I would say you don't really need to spend a lot. There's definitely things that would be so nice to have. And I think many new homeschoolers kind of fall into that trap of getting every single book for every single subject, plus all the activities, plus all the things that they might need. And then they're like, homeschooling is expensive. Yeah, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to meet all of these things unless your state has those requirements. And even then, there are ways to do it very inexpensively. The other thing you're going to need to think about is kind of, honestly, your end goal. So if your end goal is to have a kid completely ready for college, are you going to really want to push all of those things that he's going to need to meet, she are going to need to meet at the end of your school? Or are you going to try to build it in throughout the whole, 12 years of their education? For example, a good writing class, if you start it young, they only get stronger and stronger every year. However, I know some parents that have decided to kind of wait until like high school to then really get a solid writing thing in, because they've been focusing on other things throughout the whole year. And you might think, well, how does that kind of go into making a budget? Well, it does, in the way that some of these programs are kind of built foundationally upon each other, and they are expensive. And so if that is your end goal, what curriculums are going to help you get to that point? And that kind of goes back to choosing curriculums that are going to help you meet your end goals and what they're going to cost before you even say, well, I have a budget of this. If you say, I have a budget of $100 per kid for my homeschool, and you've got these expectations, $100 may not fit that. And so then you're going to be kind of stuck at trying to figure out what to do. So again, insofar as what my budget is, it really just kind of goes to, I use our tax return fund and just try to get that once a year for anything I need. And to be honest, again, it was just that one year that was really expensive, but I have kind of left it out in the open that, hey, I will consider a curriculum if you're just trying to get rid of it. Or sometimes people are selling it pretty inexpensively that it's worth it to me to try to buy it for $25, $30 secondhand, and then see if something like this is what I have been looking for, rather than spending $50, $60 brand new and finding that it doesn't work for me. And so quite often that means I have an awful lot of various curriculum in the garage. And every year it's like, okay, I need something for science. What in all of this do I have for science? And what can I do to make this fit for my kids? And then I'll go and I'll figure it out. History probably is the most lenient thing that I have and the cheapest, because I have a spine I don't really like that much. I'm using Story of the World, and more as I get older and older, I'm finding I actually don't really like it. I think it's very very watered down. It's just not complete. But it's kind of like a spine. And then I'm using a whole collection that I had built before I was married of literature that we read along with it, and kind of following that Charlotte Mason idea of bringing these books alive. For many years of our homeschool, I built our homeschool library around Ambleside Online and the Charlotte Mason method. And that is basically using living books to teach things. And it kind of goes back to a, don't hate me for this, Charlotte Mason purists, but a classical method of reading books to educate yourselves, not necessarily just textbooks. So thinking about people like Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson and many other well-known persons of history, where they just were widely read and had a very enriching education in that way, and kind of using that principle and idea to have a living education. And so because of that, you know, you pick up different books secondhand, third hand. I don't necessarily pull that from my homeschool budget. I'm just like, I'm at a thrift store, I have found a few books that will work, it's $3 or $4, I just kind of pull that out of the miscellaneous fund. Or I have sold enough. Speaking of selling, one other way that I really help our homeschool budget is if I find something very inexpensive at thrift stores or even like on Facebook Marketplace that I know has a higher value, I will purchase it and then resell it at that higher value that I know that it's worth, so that I have more money in my homeschool budget if I know that it's going to be a more tighter year. And I will also sell homeschool curriculum that I know that we're not going to need for a long time, or if I'll even want it again. Sometimes I have found that selling curriculum that I'm like, oh, I can just buy that again. For the most part, I don't miss it. I have found something that has worked for us better and left it at that, or it has been updated and I actually prefer the updates. I hope this helps. Like, I know it's really easy to say, okay, what do you budget? And then you have a realistic look. I do that with a lot of things. So like when I was biting my nails that one year of, honey, I spent $500, and people were telling me their numbers, I was like, oh, I actually have a more reasonable amount. But for my husband, who is like, why do we have to buy anything? For example, my daughter is now kind of entering a high school level of certain things, certain subjects, and I was looking at different grammar curriculums, and I'm like, okay, husband, this is what I'm thinking of here. And he's like, I have a 1970s English textbook, we're just gonna use that. And I'm looking at this like, okay, I'm gonna have to learn how to use this, honestly, because I haven't been given anything else, and so I'm using what I have. And so a lot of my curriculum and my homeschool experiences just stem from that. It just stems from what we have, what has been given to us, what I have found very inexpensively. And maybe it's not the curriculum that I would like to have. Maybe it's not everything that I would like, pristine and new and uniform and everything, but it's what we have, and it's what I'm going to use, and it's all that fun stuff. So tips to kind of look out and keep your homeschool budget affordable would be to check out the Facebook Marketplace. And if you have friends, kind of as they're kind of stock them as they're cleaning out curriculum that they're done with, going to be selling it if they have other kids. For example, I just got Exploring Creation with Marine Biology not too long ago because my friend was done with it and she was selling it, and I knew that was something that my daughter was interested in, so we got it. And it was more affordable that way than it would have been for me to buy it brand new. And that's one way that I look at it. And another way is that I have actually been given homeschool curriculum by families that have then graduated their kids, and they're like, we're done with it, would you like it? And anytime I take on curriculum and have it, I'm like, okay, are you going to be offended if I end up having to sell this and then buy something we need? Only one time has somebody said, I prefer you not do that. If you're going to do something like that, give it back to me. I'll give it to somebody that I think will appreciate it. And I'm fine with that. But more often than not, I'll use the curriculum, and if I can't, I sell it and I get the stuff that we need. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this kind of gives you an idea of how to figure out how to make a good budget. Again, I'm not able to really tell you what we spend exactly. It helps having one kid or one person and then following down, but every kid learns differently. For example, we did Saxon for so many years, and this past year we realized it wasn't working for us. And slowly but surely we have almost completely, all of us began switching to Matthew C. So thank you again for watching. Please check the description box below and check out all the other channels. And if you are coming from those other channels, hi, I'm so glad you stayed for this video. I'm hoping that I will start getting back into my homeschooling videos. It's kind of been a rough year homeschooling for me, but I'm kind of feeling more confident these last few weeks and getting back into my groove and getting back into enjoying it all over again. So go ahead and click the subscribe button and I'll see you next time. Bye.